Hey guys, what's going on? It's Saturday, May 9th, 2020, Mother's Day weekend. Just heading out for a quick errand right now, so I figured I'd knock a video out while I'm doing that. And I've been kind of itching to jump on here and talk to you guys a little bit about a guy that I've been following for a long time now. I mean, over a decade now. And I'm just absolutely, I kind of left him behind for a little bit. I'll explain it later, but a guy that I really followed closely in the late 2000s, and then once again, just over the last several weeks, kind of picked back up on his material. I'm absolutely begging you guys to check this guy out if you haven't done so already, or if you don't know of him, or maybe if you haven't watched his stuff or listened to his stuff for some time. And the guy I'm talking about is Peter Schiff. So Schiff, basically he's an investment guy, stock market guy, Euro Pacific Capital, Schiff Gold. Probably got a couple other ventures that I'm not mentioning. He ran for Connecticut Senate seat in 2010, I believe, in the 2010 election, kind of like the Tea Party wave. He tried to get in there and unseat, I forget who the sitting senator was, or Blumenthal or somebody. I forget who it was. Anyway, so Peter Schiff, for those of you who don't know him, is a real, dyed-in-the-wool Austrian economics, Friedrich Hayek kind of guy. I mean, like, he is, he is definitely the standard bearer in sort of a frontline entertainment, YouTube, social media type of way. There's a lot of guys out there who would describe themselves as, Austrian economics followers, but I definitely think that Schiff is kind of maybe the most, recognizable. I mean, he used to make a lot of TV appearances in the late 2000s during the financial crisis back then. He's written a few books, at least 3 that I know of. It could be more than that, actually, by now. So he's written a few books. He's pretty active on social media, Twitter, YouTube. He's got a great podcast. That's kind of where I was gonna focus some of my attention in this video. But yeah, I mean, he's definitely the kind of guy that if you're sort of a free market, capitalism, Austrian economics kind of person, you would love this guy. I mean, this is the guy for you. You know what I mean? So, and of course, that's why he's the guy for me. But, so just to back up a little bit on the historical timeline, I kind of ran into Schiff in 2006-07 time frame, I want to say. It wasn't too long after I discovered some other things, like in 2006, kind of discovered the Aaron Russo documentary, Freedom to Fascism, about the income tax being illegal and so forth. Kind of got into, into the whole tax thing at that time. Like, why are taxes going to rise in the future? There was some material like that I kind of seized on. And I think if I remember correctly, I think I ran across something that Peter Schiff's dad had either put out there, or somebody mentioned him, or something like that. I mean, his dad was actually, firmly believed the income tax was illegal and just stopped paying it. And he, unsurprisingly went to jail for the rest of his life. But anyway, something like that happened, and I ran into Peter Schiff, and it just so happened to be right around that time frame of the, 07, or the 05, 06, 07 subprime crisis, which kind of turned into the financial crisis in 2008, 2009. So I discovered him like right in time, for that. And, I liked his message, and he was one of the few people who was really touting true free market capitalism. I mean, not the cronyism that, the country, kind of has going for it today. But really like true, no holds barred capitalism, no government intervention, no market distortions, that whole thing. And so, so for 07, 08, 09, he was the perfect guy. I mean, he was talking about gold. Gold went through the roof back then. He was hammering the Fed for the quantitative easing, the TARP program, and he gave it out equally, to President Bush, to President Obama. He was equally disturbed by both of their policy decisions with regard to monetary policy and the fiscal stimulus and everything. So the problem was that the issue with Schiff, and I'll be talking a lot about him. I actually, I won't be able to cover everything in these, 7 minutes or whatever. But the problem with Schiff, the reason that I kind of drifted from him is twofold. Number one, had nothing to do with him. You guys will probably see that, as you follow some of my stuff. I used to kind of, I first of all used to do what everybody did. I used to invest in the stock market. I had the whole 401k thing going this is many, many moons ago. Eventually kind of drifted away from that and did more of my sort of self-directed stuff. Invested in the stocks and commodities and stuff like that I believed in, and kind of discovered Nassim Taleb in 2009, and started dabbling in options. And, I kind of did the options thing a couple different times along the way. Popped in and popped out. But I've pretty much reached a point where I'm completely out of the stock market. I don't mess around with it. I don't do anything with it. I never will again. Or probably never will again. Unless I have like cash to burn on options and stuff like that. So that's the first reason, is I kind of got away from the stock market regardless. And so Schiff is a little less relevant to me because of that. I just wasn't really, and by the way, guys, if you ever get AirPods Pro, you can see I'm wearing them right now. Just be prepared to push them in your ear like 500 times a day. Okay. Just, I digress, but I just got to get that public service announcement out there. Okay. So anyway, so that's probably, something that was going to happen anyway. So it had nothing to do with Schiff. The other reason was that Schiff was trying to time, a lot of the things he was talking about. He was, it gets very dangerous when you do this as a stock market investor. He tried to declare when things were going to happen. He wasn't just talking about what was going to happen, but he was saying, here's when it's going to happen, basically. I mean, he didn't give an exact date, but he was hinting that it was coming really soon, and if you look at some of his books, he had, his first, the first book I read was Crash Proof. Then it was Crash Proof 2.0, and then it was, Crash Proof, the real crash, or whatever the title was. So basically he had to keep updating the books because the stuff he was talking about wasn't happening, right? So anyway, the bottom line is I kind of got away from it because I wasn't really following the market. I wasn't even trying to time it. And it seemed like he was giving these time frames. But still have tremendous respect for the guy. Still love everything the guy says. And like I said, just kind of, left the whole issue there through the 2010s. But with the whole coronavirus and the stock market fluctuation, volatility, and so forth, I've completely dove back in to Schiff's stuff, particularly his podcast, because it's a little more convenient for me to do the audio thing, and to basically just kind of walk around the house listening to his podcast versus watching a YouTube video or trying to read, his website or something like that. So the podcast kind of, came naturally to me. There's probably other good material out there you guys should check out of his. But anyway, look, here's the thing. It's not just what he's saying. It's not just the fact that he's talking about the market and all the stuff, going on with, the quantitative easing and the stimulus and the bailouts and all that. It's that Schiff is like downright entertaining. I mean, like, if you just listen to the guy, like, he has, I think part of his success and part of his sort of mainstream, if you want to call it mainstream success, he was not really accepted by the mainstream, but he did get on TV. He was featured for a while on a lot of the investment shows and stuff like that. is because he has a flair to him. You know, he has a little bit of a showmanship to him, and so you hear it come through on the podcast. I mean, the guy, I mean, sometimes he has me in complete stitches. I mean, doubled over and laughed, you know, with laughter, you know, can't control it kind of thing. You know, it's refreshing because he's calling a spade a spade. I mean, he is basically saying, you know, what is really happening in unvarnished terms. And of course, if you turn on the television or you're watching, you know, a CNBC or a Fox Business, you are not getting a true assessment of the economic situation in America. I mean, you never are, and you particularly aren't getting it now during the crisis. I mean, everybody's drinking the Kool-Aid and, you know, parroting the same message, which is fundamentally flawed. And so, you know, as Schiff points this out repeatedly, I mean, just, you know, because I went back to the beginning of the crisis. I went back to like the late February, early March timeframe, like when things really started to get dicey with the virus, like right around when the pandemic was declared on March 11th. So I think I listened to like the episode right before that, and then I'm up to like April 10th or April 9th right now, trying to catch up to the present. So I've listened to, you know, at least 10 to 15 episodes of his. And so, you know, basically, I'm sure the podcast was good before that, guys. I'm not saying that's the only episodes you should listen to, but just listening to this guy rail about, you know, the bailouts and the stimulus and the trillions that have been printed so far, how, you know, President Trump is essentially, you know, a Democrat. He's essentially a socialist. You know, Bernie Sanders already won. He doesn't even need to run for president. It's fine that he dropped out because he basically got his agenda passed via a Republican president. I mean, you got to hear him to you got to experience him to understand 100% what I'm talking about. But he is absolutely. It's almost an equal amount of entertainment and economic news and commentary. But what I would say, guys, just to kind of wrap this up, you know, didn't want to take all the time talking about Peter Schiff. I mean, I have a lot more that I can say about him that's not going to be in this video, but subsequent ones. And hopefully, as you guys see me push these AirPods in 10, 15 times in the last 5 minutes, like, that's enough to discourage you from buying them. You know, I mean, I'm not doing this, you know, for any other reason it's necessary. But the thing I was going to say is, in all seriousness, and I tweeted this today, you probably, I don't want to say probably, you will learn more about economics, you know, macro, micro, everything in between, listening to the Peter Schiff podcast than you would at, let's say, an Ivy League school. And I'm, you know, and I didn't go to an Ivy League school, so I don't even, you know, I can't necessarily say it firsthand, but I can still say it confidently because the people who set policy in this country economically, most of them went to Ivy League schools or went to prestigious schools. And they are setting these corrosive, sure-to-fail policies for the country. So if they went to those institutions and these are the things they believe in, and they believe that, you know, printing $6, $7, $8, $10 trillion and injecting it into the economy overnight, or just about, is a good idea, then you know that their education was garbage. I mean, I don't need to go to Harvard to know that its economics education is trash. It's complete trash, right? So you will absolutely learn more if you just turn on Schiff's podcast and you just listen to him comment on the economy. You listen to him comment about the dynamics that are at play in the market, in the country, around the world. He explains it very effectively. You know, he gives detail to the things he's talking about. He gives examples and citations of, you know, historical references. Like, one of the things he's done a lot of that I've really appreciated is he's contrasted World War II. This probably could be another totally separate video, but he's contrasted World War II in this country economically to today, because some people in the mainstream have compared the two, and he has deconstructed that. Okay, he's totally disassembled that argument. So, they have anything to do with each other. They're anything like each other. So the thing about Schiff is that you really will get a very compelling, explanation of what's actually going on. And I think when you do that, you'll see the value to him. I mean, even if I'm not saying you should invest with him. I'm not saying you should buy gold, anything like that. I mean, I already told you on this video, I don't do any of those things. Although I once did invest with Schiff back about 10 or 12 years ago. But, so it has nothing to do with his investments. I mean, if you like his stuff, you want to do the gold thing, you want to go into his brokerage or whatever, that's fine. But I'm not suggesting that or recommending that. All I'm saying is that if you listen to Peter Schiff's podcast or his other material, YouTube, whatever, you will definitely learn a lot about economics. I mean, you will learn a lot about what's actually happening, what should actually be happening, what true capitalism would look like. I mean, we don't have it in this country. It doesn't exist. It's called that in order to put it up as a straw man and knock it down, right? So for whatever reason that's being done, it's called capitalism, but it's not. And there's a million reasons why, but I'll kind of end with the point that if we had capitalism in this country, there would be no bailouts. Okay, there would be no, bailouts of companies that has executives that need their, multi-million-dollar bonus paid out to them and stuff like that. These companies that mismanage themselves and drove themselves into the ground or levered themselves up with too much debt and were vulnerable, those companies would be allowed to fail. And, the company would be, restructured or bought back at a cheaper price or whatever through the process of natural market forces. Okay, so the fact that the government steps in and bails people out, right there, one indicator, that's all you need to know, we don't have capitalism in this country, right? So Schiff is very much on top of that point, and many others like it. So I definitely would suggest you guys check him out. Just really, really fun guy to follow. Super smart, super informative, super insightful. And I think, it probably gets you to crack a smile or laugh every once in a while, just with some of the ways that he skewers the government at large and then various personalities within the government. I mean, from Trump to Mnuchin to Kudlow to, the Fed chairman Powell to Kashkari to Ben Bernanke. I mean, the whole thing. So anyway, check out Peter Schiff. I think his Twitter handle is @PeterSchiff, SCHIFF. And then, of course, you could just search him on YouTube or whatever. And if you go in the podcast app on the iPhone, you just put in Peter Schiff, you'll find him that way real quick, too. So, all right, thanks for listening, guys. Going to check out now. All right, bye-bye.